Okay, all over real estate. This is Shenzhen, and they're advertising a house at 6,980 yuan per square meter. Okay, and that is for a houses between 86 and 178 square meters. This is a little bit of false advertising because obviously for the middle of Shenzhen that's cheap. So there's other fees and hidden things in there that make the price actually more close to around the 15,000 or so yuan per square meter, approaching what Shanghai is at 20,000 plus per square meter. So when you see real estate advertisements all over the place in subway stations and on TV and light boxes and digital signage, that's when you know, that's your cue that the real estate market has either crashed or is about to crash. Okay, the mall's been here for a while, but these stores here are just being built now. The building, like I said, has been constructed for a while, but in a couple weeks already, these things are already starting to take form, take shape. And I will bet you that by the time the first week after New Year's rolls around, these stores right here will have product, be open, and ready to go. And that's how fast they can do construction here in China. Once they get the project going and they get the plan and it's ready to rock, very quickly you'll have a marketplace with multiple stores. So we'll check back in right after New Year's, first week of 2015, and I will bet you anything that this will be ready to go. Okay, about 10 days after that video, you see that many of these storefronts are installed and up and operating. That's how fast things can get done once they decide to do it. Now, China has a lot of red tape, obviously, and it takes them a while to make a decision on certain things, but once they do, it's 24/7. Contractors may or may not get overtime here, and there's enough bodies to get stuff done, and we're doing some finishing work on this store here, but it's operational. The rest of these storefronts all ready to go. This thing went up literally in about less than a month from the time that they did the flooring to the glass to the fixtures and all the other components of getting these vacant spaces filled, and it's ready to go. It's ready to rock, and that is quite amazing to me. So you've got all of these storefronts now in this new mall, but here's the thing, they're all the same product, and that's a problem with Asia in general, Korea, Japan, China, in retail space, is that they group everything together. You'll see hospitals together, clothing stores that are exactly the same product together. You'll see the same kind of restaurants together in a row, and so on and so on and so on. They group them together. They think that somehow that's going to give them more traffic, but really they're competing against each other, aren't they? Look at it this way. This shopping mall right here is getting remodeled, even though it didn't need to get remodeled. It was already state-of-the-art. You see the men up there on the scaffolding. And it's going to get all new flooring, all new plumbing, all new amenities, and it didn't actually need it. And that's kind of what the Chinese economy is like now during this recession. They're just trying to find ways to keep things going, keep that GDP number up high, keep the growth number exactly where the Chinese government said that it will be, so it lands on target, keep people employed. This shopping mall, before this scaffolding came up here, was already better than most shopping malls in the United States in terms of modernity and in terms of, everything that it had in it. Yet they're just tearing parts of it down and rebuilding it. Same thing with the sidewalks. You'll just see them just tearing them down, rebuilding them. Tear it down, rebuild it. Keep building, perpetually. Every year we have the same amount of growth. Every year people stay employed. Every year people stop asking questions about the economy. Okay, here's the idea. Your economy is slowing and you want GDP numbers to get to a point where you can actually promote progress, and your nation has no manufacturing and very little production, and your population is getting older. What do? Well, you build, despite the fact you may not need it, right? Well, no problem. You just tear shit down and you rebuild it, and you continue to tear shit down and rebuild it, and that's how you boost your economy in the short run. Look what happened in Japan during Fukushima. They had a spike in growth after the rebuilding of the Fukushima disaster, and it worked in the short term, but there was no boost in productive capacity of the nation. It was just simply short-term projects. But hey, that works for Japan. It works for China perpetually, so why not try it in your country? Just blow shit up, rebuild it, and that'll be your economic progress. I should get me a job on one of those crews, you know. A couple of years back, this is kind of a funny story. I walked into one of these construction sites and I started to lay down flooring because I've actually done it before, part-time in the summers way back when. And the Chinese construction workers that were there gave me the most amazing odd look in their face. Their mouths dropped, and for a while they kind of didn't do anything, but then they stopped me from putting down flooring because obviously I'm not a worker and I'm a foreigner, and they're open to liability. So sometimes I do stuff like that. I'll clown around a little bit just to kind of break up the monotony of, you know, being in the Far East, and to get a few laughs out of people. You know, you gotta lighten up a little bit. You gotta try to throw a curveball every once in a while. You know, that's how I handle it. It's the only way to tolerate the mundane, everyday life. I wandered onto many construction sites in my time in China, and it always amazes me how far I'm able to get without being stopped. This is a big one here. We're talking huge high-rise. They've gutted it all out there. It's quite big. Big cranes in here. See down there. I'm going to lay this foundation as best I can, and then build up from there. And eventually the scaffolding will come up, and they'll be able to put something impressive up here that they may or may not have vacancy. So like I've been reporting for many years here in China, the construction continues and there is no stop. Regardless of what the economy is telling them, they'll continue to build non-stop. Interesting thing that some of you may or may not know, but almost all of the 9/11 demolition, all of the material from the 9/11, the 3 buildings, all ended up in China. Now, I would be very interested in actually getting some samples from that material that was all shipped over here, and then testing that material, because no one has really been able to have any kind of independent testing of the 9/11 rubble and find out exactly what's in that material. And what I'm referring to is the theory that perhaps there were small nuclear devices that were used to take those buildings down. Before you jump to conclusions and call me nuts, consider that what material could have blown up those 3 buildings and had them completely vaporized and crumble into a small footprint. There's not much that you could use to actually do it and melt it down the way that it was so efficiently, other than a nuclear device. So anybody with a Geiger counter that day or the days after 9/11 could have tested and found out a higher level of radiation. Anybody that has samples of the material shipped over here to China. could easily find out radioactive material, yes or no, and find the signature for the bomb material, and they can trace that back to whoever constructed the bombs that took those buildings down. Because as you all know, any free-thinking intelligent individual knows that jet fuel could not have vaporized that much concrete, steel, glass, and so on. So what were the signature of the nuclear devices, which are unique for every nuclear device? What are they, and do they match the ones that are in the 9/11 rubble? Once again, brand new building within the past couple months, and they're already patching it up there. That doesn't bode well for the future of these tenants if this building's already falling apart within 2 months. So what's this guy doing? Well, he's covering up the cracks and the holes in the facade that's crumbling on this recently built building, and he's doing so all over these storefronts here. This is quite common in China because they didn't take the time or the care to construct the building correctly, and so they're always patching things up. Good for job security, but not exactly, efficient. This is how China perpetually builds, and they don't just do it with building and roads and other infrastructure. They do it with land, and they do it with trees, and they just pick it up by the roots and they tie it off, and the crane basically lowers it down onto huge flatbed semis, and then they're able to take these trees and transplant them to another place, and that's how they can build landscaping and infrastructure at the same time. No one else can do it like the Chinese because labor is so cheap, and when you've got government backing on projects, you can pretty much go ahead and do everything. There's not much red tape. Government gives the approval to build, they get the big contracts, and then they go ahead and they hire enough labor and equipment to do it, and they move landscapes to support their infrastructure. So you'll see whole areas of cities where all of a sudden trees will just pop up, and you can see very, very quickly a whole set of trees has been inserted, and done so by decree, because there is no property rights for individuals in China. So if the government wants to take your land, they just take it and they put in whatever else they want to put in. So by decree, much like it was back in the early dynasties of China thousands of years ago. All right, the emperor decrees, I'm going to take your land, I'm going to grow some trees, I'm going to put in some housing, some business complexes, whatever it is, factories. They just do it, and it's the quickest of any other nation I've seen. When they want to do some land development, it just goes once they get to the point where they want to make a decision. It takes them a long time to make a decision in China. That's the Chinese way. But once they finally get the green light to go, or red light I should say, everything's backwards here, they go ahead and they just, boom, they blow it out. Now, there's nothing like cheap Chinese drywall in China, even cheaper in China. I have to get me a job someday on one of these crews, and maybe I could be a foreman. See exactly how they construct their properties. Maybe put in a little good old American ingenuity in the mix. That new building you built, it was supposed to be marble. Well, actually it's not marble. It's maybe granite, but on the inside, brick. Brick. That's fake China for you, at least construction-wise. Well, at least it's not cans of food and garbage like they did over in Chengdu, which you never know until you look inside the walls, right? It's not even granite either. I'm not sure what material it is exactly, but it's much more lightweight and less scratch resistant than granite. But anyway, that's kind of like how the construction is. You see a lot of these panels coming off all over the place. In the sidewalks, you see tiles missing. Now, why they use tiles in the sidewalks, I have no idea, because every single sidewalk in China you've got tiles missing, but I guess that's what's called job security. And when all else fails, you just kind of tape it up with duct tape, and hopefully that'll keep the wall from falling over. And if it doesn't, then you know, hell to pay, right? Especially if there's an earthquake. You've got the occasional sinkhole, and you've got, in some cases, like up in Nanjing, you've got the entire railway line coming in there sinking by the day, week, month, and year. It's sinking so fast that they're having to have some contingency plans on how to fix it, and that's just kind of how it is, you know. Construction is going a mile a minute, you know. It's very fast, and it's incredible what they can accomplish in a short period of time. But on the other hand, a lot of it's questionable construction practices.